We're going to start off with a general overview of what we need to do to edit, compile, and run a COBOL program. Now that we've acquired a mainframe account and have installed the emulation software, let's connect to our mainframe. After double-clicking on the emulation icon, we are presented with the initial z/OS welcome screen. From this screen, we can enter different options as seen below. We'll start off by entering the TSO for time sharing option, interactive environment, where we can begin to interact with the system. On the command line below, we'll type TSO or logon and press enter. After doing so, we are presented with the TSO command line interface, which prompts us to enter our user ID. In the line below, we will type in our user ID and press enter. After doing so, we are presented with the TSO logon screen. Our user ID already appears here. Now we need to type in our password. After our user ID and password have been verified, we are taken to the TSO command line. On the TSO command line, we interact with the system by typing various TSO commands. However, the mainframe, like most operating systems, provides us with a user-friendly alternative to memorizing and typing commands. The name of this utility is ISPF, Interactive System Productivity Facility. If the command ISPF already appears here, we just need to press enter. Otherwise, we need to first type ISPF and then press enter. Here we are at the ISPF primary option menu. Before we get started with the edit, compile, run process, let's remind ourselves of what we would need in any environment to achieve this. In any environment, we would need changes. In any environment, we would need a file management system to manage the text files that will contain our source code, an editor and command to edit the contents of the source code, a command to compile the source code into a runnable program. If the compile produces a list of errors, we'll continue editing the source until the compile succeeds. When the compile is successful, it will produce a runnable program. Therefore, we'll need a command or environment to run the compiled program. We would need the code text files to be organized into a management system. The first level might be a physical library designated for a business domain like accounting, or perhaps a specific user or environment. Within each library, we'll need to have folders or containers known as source files, each for a different subject or source type. The last level would contain the actual code text files known as members within the source file, which we would then edit, compile, and run. This management system enables us to edit, compile, and run our source code in a continuous development cycle. On the mainframe, source files are managed in an internal file system and are called datasets. Datasets are not only used for managing source files. There are other usages which we will learn about later. For now, we will view datasets as a means for managing source files. When a new user is defined, there are usually a number of predefined datasets assigned to that user. To go to our user's list of datasets, we will choose option 3, Utilities, from the ISPF primary option menu. In the utility selection panel, we will choose for DSList to continue to the dataset list utility. The first screen presented is used for defining settings and filter defaults for the datasets list. Commands can be typed in the command line above. We'll learn about some of those later. The default filter is set to display only those datasets that belong to the current user ID. We don't have to change anything, just press Enter to continue. Now we see the list of our datasets. Each row represents a separate dataset. It's important to notice that a dataset name is made up of a number of strings delimited by a period. Organizations use different naming conventions. In our case, the name begins with the user ID, followed by a primary, secondary subject. For example, my username, mateah.cobol.source.lib, is the dataset which contains COBOL source code members. To see the list of members within a dataset, we'll type E for edit and press Enter. After typing E to the left of the dataset and pressing Enter, we'll get the list of members contained in that dataset. Each row in the list represents a COBOL source member that can be edited, compiled, and run. Naming conventions for program names are usually determined by the organization. Let's proceed and edit our first member, COB001. To edit a member in a dataset, we'll type E for edit and press Enter. After pressing Enter, we invoke the source member editor and see the first lines of a standard COBOL program. The edit codes are typed on the left of each line. We'll go through all of them soon. The default for paging on the mainframe is F8 for page down or forward, and F7 for page up or backward. The IBM PCOM emulator enables us to change this default to normal paging using the page up and page down keys instead of F7 and F8. Our program is ready. Let's move on to the next step, compiling the program. We'll exit the source file member by pressing F3. This will take us back to the dataset member list. Here we are back in the member list of dataset mateah.cobol.source.lib, our COBOL sources. On other platforms, we might have been accustomed to compiling and running our programs from the same place, the same line as the source file. In the mainframe, all commands, even simple commands like compiling or running a program, are defined and executed separately. So we will press F3 again and go back to the datasets list and see how we define and run these commands. Every computing platform provides a solution that enables us to define a set of system commands that can be run as a separate process. Each set is saved as a source file and may incorporate programming logic for process control, also known as control language. A process can be run outside the confines of an interactive online terminal session in what is known as a batch or offline environment. On the mainframe, the control language is called JCL for Job Control Language, and the source file is saved as a member in a JCL dataset. Each JCL dataset member can then be submitted to run in a batch environment. Like in the previous example, after typing E and pressing Enter, we are presented with the member list of this JCL dataset. Each row represents a JCL member. For example, the JCL member COBComp is used for compiling a COBOL program. This JCL is reused for every compile we do. Each time we simply update the name of the COBOL member we would like to compile. To edit a member in a dataset, type E for edit and press enter. We are now in the JCL member COBComp used for compiling COBOL programs. At this point, we only need to change the name of the member which we would like to compile, COB001. So we'll ignore all the other lines for now and update the member name below. We can now submit the JCL to run in batch and compile our first COBOL program on the mainframe. We don't have to save the JCL source. It is submitted to batch by simply typing sub or submit on the line above and pressing enter. After doing so, we receive a message at the bottom of our screen notifying us that the job has been submitted. If we want to see the results of this job, we need to press enter. Sometimes we might have to wait a few seconds for the job to complete and press enter again. When the job has completed, we will see the final completion status of the job being displayed. If the max CC status code equals 4 zeros, the job, in this case the compile, has completed successfully. Later on, we will learn about different job statuses and where to view job output, such as the COBOL output listing. For now, we want to move on and run the compiled program. To run our COBOL program, we need to use another JCL, so let's go back to our JCL dataset. We'll go into member COB_run to run our COBOL program after it's been compiled. Like with the compile, we need to go into the COB_run member and update the name of the COBOL program we'd like to run. After updating the program name to COB001, we can submit the JCL to run in batch. And like with the compile JCL, we will type sub or submit in the line above and press enter. After submitting, we will see the notification below. We'll press enter to see the job completion code. Again, the max CC job completion status will appear. If it is 4 zeros, the job has terminated successfully. And so we have submitted our first program to run on the mainframe. Congratulations. Now let's learn how to view the output files that accompany the job. We'll click on F3 a few times until we find ourselves back at the ISPF menu. Later on, we will learn shortcuts to make navigating these screens easier. In order to see the output of our jobs, we will type S to go into the SDSF, Spool Search and Display Facility. On the next screen, we will type ST for Status of Jobs to get a list of our jobs. Here we can see 3 lines. The first line in white represents the online interactive job of the session we are working from right now. The second line represents the COBOL compile job that we sent earlier. The third line represents the COBOL run job that we just sent. Let's first check the output from our COBOL compile job. We'll type a question mark to the left of the second line to see a list of the output files from that job. After pressing enter, we'll see that output list. Each line represents a file which contains a specific output which we can view. These files are known as print or spool files. The line we need to view is where column name ddname equals sysprint and column procstep equals COBOL. This file holds the compiler output listing of the compiled program. In order to view the contents of the spool file, we need to type S for show to the left of the line and press enter. At first, we can see the compiler default options displayed. We'll page down to get to the start of the COBOL code. We can control the amount of lines to scroll with each page up, down, page down using the scroll field on the right. For example, we can type 1 to advance one line for every page up, down key we press. In the command input field above, we can type in commands such as top to take us to the start of the file, or bot to take us to the end of the file. You can also type M and press F8. Find followed by a space and a string which we want to locate within the file. We can continue to search for the next string using F5 and F1, which will display a help screen. At the bottom of the file, we will see the compile status and error codes if the status is not 0. Let's go back and go into the output list of the COBOL run job. Now let's go back and go into the output list of the COBOL run job. We'll type in the question mark to see the different spool files associated with this job. When running a COBOL program, we can expect different outputs. We will view the sysout spool file, which contains the contents of the display command performed when the program ran. We'll type S to the left and press enter. We expect to see the contents of the display command from the program. As can be expected, we can see the hello world string that we displayed from the program that we ran. Congratulations for making it this far, and good luck on the rest of your journey. Okay.